My name is Jason Smallheer. I am the CEO and lead strategist for the Elevated Growth Group, where specifically we do digital marketing solutions and offer marketing consulting specifically for the cannabis industry. What makes us a little bit different is that we go beyond the traditional website and SEO as we go into things like streaming television, streaming audio, and a few other places as well, all of which I'm going to dive into today. So, what we are going to talk about are future trends in cannabis advertising. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of questions to be answered, but there's also a lot that we as marketers can do to support the cannabis industry that we may not even know that we can do. So, if you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to share my screen here. And if I may, I'm going to ask you in the chat, can you see my desktop? If you can give me a thumbs up or something along those lines, that would be impactful so that I can make sure I'm not just completely losing you. Otherwise, I'll just keep going and I hope everything works out for the best. All right. So I mentioned who I am. I am Jason Smallheer. There's only one of me on the planet. So if you want to look me up on LinkedIn, I'll also give you my contact information here at the end of the presentation. Be more than happy to have a connection with you. I'm just going to move around a couple of things. Whoop, our meeting chat showed up right there. Perfect. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is navigating the green rush, future trends in cannabis advertising. Why am I the one to bring this to you? I've been in marketing for about 30 years now. I'm also a professor in higher education. I teach at Columbia College in their business school, where I have 9 different classes under my tutelage, if you will, not all at one time. At Southern New Hampshire University, I teach in the MBA program, and I do digital marketing and SEO, SEM classes for a small school in Southern Indiana called St. Mary of the Woods. So I'm taking what we talk about in the real world and bring it to the classroom, and I'm taking what we talk about in the classroom and I'm bringing it to the real world. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. I've got a lot of data here for you today. You're going to look at a word wall and go, oh my gosh, Jason, you're going to read all this stuff. No, I'm not. Feel free, though, to take pictures or screenshots all you want. This is my gift to you, and my expectation is that you can use this to either help your clients, or if you are a dispensary, to start putting this into practice today so that you can start to see growth. We're going to talk about some traditional mediums. That's anything that doesn't use the internet, print, radio, and outdoor. And then we'll talk about digital mediums as well. That'll be your social media, your streaming, SEO, and so forth. And I'm going to break it down into strengths and limitations. Everything has its strength and everything has limitations. So anybody who says, oh, well, traditional marketing is dying, it may not be what it used to be, but nothing is dead. I'll leave it there. Everything has an opportunity. So let's start with print. Print's the one that most folks say, oh my gosh, there's really no merit there. But I'll tell you, there is something that is nice about the world of print. Number one, there are people who like having a tangible thing that they can hold, touch, and smell. But there's also a certain amount of credibility that comes to holding a newspaper or a magazine. A magazine, anything from, say, the New Yorker to the New York Times to High Times, okay? Anytime you have something that's in print like that, there's a certain amount of credibility, and brands do find merit in being there. However, some of the limitations that we run into from an advertising perspective is, first of all, the 1,000-pound gorilla. There's not as many people subscribing to these periodicals anymore or these newspapers. You have declining readership. And if something happens today that you want to change right away in the print space, you can't. Some things have a daily shelf life, like your big late local newspaper, and other things, maybe your nice glossy magazine, well, those things go to print once a month. So there's a certain amount of flexibility that you don't have with some print mediums. Radio advertising, and I'm talking about radio as we know it, the 99.5s on your car stereo. I'm not talking about streaming or Spotify. That uses the internet. That's a little bit different. We'll talk about that in a second. But with your radio, you still have the opportunity to engage people by segment. If you wanted to talk to primarily a male audience or a female audience of a certain age group, you can pick a particular format and that's generally who that radio station is targeting. So we're starting to get into targeting here. We're just scraping the surface, but that's a massive benefit of radio. Plus, the medium is auditory only, so you still have the ability to make changes. You're not confined to maybe a 1 month window, but you still have the opportunity to make changes. It may take you anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of days, depending on the radio station or stations that you're working with. Some of the limitations, though, especially in the world of cannabis, there are no visuals. We like to look at bud, or we like to look at, smoke wafting through the atmosphere. The fact that there's no visual is kind of a bummer, but that's what radio is all about. It gives us a little more flexibility, and it's also a medium that's in the background. Think about it. You go to your dentist office right now, they've got something playing in the background, whether it's traditional radio, a local radio station, or if it's something streaming. The point is it's in the background. We're not actively paying attention to that medium. That changes when we get to digital, but I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. Whoops, I'm sorry, I'm hitting my button too many times. Outdoor, I want to talk about billboards for a second. Think about this. Most of us have working eyes. Some eyes are better than others. You have an opportunity to put your brand in front of a bunch of eyeballs on a regular basis. Billboards have high visibility, and you have the opportunity to see them often. I go by the same billboard every day on my way to get a cup of coffee. I can tell you all about that State Farm agent. The downside to that is most of the time we're driving 45, 50, 60 miles an hour. In the cannabis space, we have really leaned on outdoor. We have a lot of billboards. One of the things that got me interested to start this company was the abundance of billboards I saw in Illinois, Missouri, and Oklahoma as I go through the Midwest. The challenge, though, is I'm doing 70 miles an hour, maybe more, down the highway, and it's awfully hard to read all of the things that are on the billboard. And there's two things that are going on there. Number one, the billboard might be poorly designed with too much information. And number two, I might be going just a little bit too fast for the readership. But it's still something to consider. If your target customer is doing 80 and a 50 and, playing around with a cup of coffee in the cup holder, it's probably going to be hard for them to see your brand and resonate with the message. That goes down to one of the limitations of brief engagement. And there's also some regulations that we run into as well, depending on what we can put on the board based on particular zoning and maybe even the billboard company. I was working years ago with a billboard company that was owned by the Mormon Church, and the client I had was adult entertainment, a little more risque. They would not take that client's money because of their values and beliefs. I get that. That's totally fine. But in the cannabis industry, we run the risk of running into that same hurdle. We've got an industry that's called a little more risque. Same thing with gambling, tobacco, and firearms. We could run into some of those limitations. Now, streaming television, also known as OTT or over the top, this is when we have the ability to start really targeting our people. For starters, I want you to think about your television set. It's probably connected to the internet in one way, shape, or form. Most of the newer TVs do that, and you can log on to some of the free apps that are built right in. Pluto TV, Crackle, things like that. And they have hundreds of channels for you to watch and music channels you can listen to. My wife is a massive fan of Doctor Who, and I believe it's the Pluto channel, has a channel completely devoted to Doctor Who. Now, here's what's interesting between your streaming television and your traditional television. On my regular TV, I say, hey, I want to talk to a woman in her 40s, and they'll say, okay, you need to watch this show. More women are watching that. But with the technology that we have in the palm of our hands or on our streaming television, embrace the creepiness, my friends. These devices know everything about us. They know my woman's, excuse me. They know my wife's age. They know her habits. Believe it or not, they have a good idea on her income because of the things she buys. And this all comes down to our IP address in the house. So if my wife is watching the Doctor Who channel upstairs and I'm watching the Doctor Who channel downstairs, when a commercial break comes on, because I'm logged into the TV downstairs, I'm over 50, you can understand the kind of ads I'm starting to get. Retirement, AARP, ED medications, and the like. My wife is getting ads for exquisite vacations to Europe on a longboat and buy fancy cars and gym memberships and how to get a massage. She gets the cool ads. So again, she's being targeted specifically. One of the strengths of streaming television is our ability to target specifically and it gives us a lot of flexibility. With the flip of a toggle button, we can go from being on a particular audience of this kind to one of that kind. So in the cannabis space, while we can't ideally target right now cannabis users, we can identify alternative medicine or somebody who's got more character traits that would be indicative of somebody who's open to using cannabis either recreationally as a medication or recreationally for fun, and everything in the middle. So it gives us an opportunity to target specifically. The Super Bowl is on regular broadcast TV. 100 million people watch the Super Bowl. And ad agencies might tell you, oh my gosh, you're going to get this massive reach. I used to work for a CBS affiliate, and when we had the Super Bowl, we tell everybody how many sets of eyeballs were going to be on the Super Bowl. But if I was trying to say, speak to a woman of a certain age and demographic and income and credit score, we couldn't guarantee that on the Super Bowl. We would say, well, I sure hope they're watching. I call that hope marketing, when we have to hope somebody is watching. We don't want to play that game. And instead of talking to 100 million people, if we can click the right buttons, we can say, hey, watching a particular network or engaging in a particular program at any time might give you 10,000 sets of eyeballs, but those 10,000 sets of eyeballs are into alternative medicine, have money to spend, might have 2.1 kids and a dog, and are willing to spend money on cannabis as medication or for recreation. One of the limitations, though, that we have with streaming television, depending on which network you're using, sometimes you can skip the ad. Not all the time, sometimes you can. Now, keep this in mind. My wife is making a conscious decision to watch Doctor Who. She's not sitting down and channel surfing. So while ad skipping is a possibility, it doesn't happen as often because A, my wife, you, me, have made the decision to watch that particular network, number one. And number two, the commercial breaks, while on commercial radio or commercial television, might be 4, 5, and 6 minutes long, you're probably going to get anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds on streaming. Just enough to get up and get a refill of your water, get a refill of your cup of coffee, or to step outside and, do your thing. There are, however, some regulatory constraints. Now, arrogantly, I've spent the past couple of years going through what those can be, and it's very similar to what we deal with in tobacco and alcohol. And if you think about back in the day, if you were watching a, say, Virginia Slims commercial on regular TV, as long as you're not showing this or this, you're okay. You can conceivably say ABC brand available at EFG dispensary with a logo and be just fine. We just have to work on coming up with the right creative and the right call to action. And you can put a cannabis message on streaming television. We have providers that we can work with that are cannabis friendly. It's just one of those things that isn't talked about as much because we keep doing what we've always done. So this is an opportunity for us in the cannabis space. It's available now. Streaming audio, same thing. Podcast, Pandora, the iHeart Network, Spotify. You can get your message, again, just in people's ears. Now, the benefit to a podcast or something streaming is, again, you can target who you're talking to. If I wanted to use a traditional radio station, they'd say, do you want to talk to men between the ages of 25 and 54? And that's what you got. Okay. However, if I wanted to talk to men between the ages of 25 and 54 who are in a certain area, let's just say Cleveland, and they're into alternative medicine and they enjoy outdoor activities and they own a home, things along those lines, well, we can really target that. And the next time I am listening to the Party Like a Marketer podcast, here you go, CMA, or I'm listening to something streaming, the all 80s station, the all grunge station, I have an opportunity to hear a message. Now, the ask may be, Jason, a lot of us are paying the extra fee so that we don't have to listen to messages. Big piece of data here, only 15% of the population, you ready for this? Only 15% is actually using or actually paying extra money for that. Most of us are using the free version because we don't want to spend $10, $15, $16, $20 a month. So again, there is an opportunity there for you to explore streaming audio. I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking, and I apologize for that. Now, search engine optimization is something that we are neck deep in as an industry. We've been doing this for a while, and we should encourage our clients to keep doing this. This gives us the opportunity for a website to show up organically. Now, this is your website, which goes into maybe just a subset here. It's very easy to say a Facebook business page is your website, or your link on Weed Maps or Leafly is your website. Have your own website. You can control the content. Yes, you do have to put an age speed bump there as a person over 21. But if you have your own website, you can control the content, you can change it regularly, and you're not being confined to whatever Facebook or what other entity wants to do for you. If tomorrow Facebook said, hey, we're getting rid of business pages, you're stuck. So invest the money, at the very least, a landing page, but I would even recommend a basic website with some good SEO. The Cannabis Marketing Association has some great folks that do SEO. Dope SEO is the first one that comes to mind, but use those folks to do SEO for you. So another one, our website design, we were just talking about that. You can control the content. There's a lot that you can do with your own website. One of the challenges that you may run into is certain accessibility pieces, and I just talked about that. We do have to lean into that a little bit, making sure we have some kind of a gate that makes sure that the young children are getting onto our website. And we need to make sure that we're maintaining the website on a regular basis. When things get stale, people don't go there, and we're not liked very much in the world of Google. But if we change things on a regular basis, and this is a discussion for another time, with new offers, new image, new video, new backlinks, that goes back to the whole SEO thing, we give ourselves an opportunity to rank very well. So don't write off having your own website. Social media, we can spend a whole day doing social media. Billboard number one, social media number two. It's very easy to say, hey, I'm going to post things on social media. And you can, and that's great. And there's a lot of advantages to social media, like building a community. When you've got a tribe of people that share the same interest you have, whether it's over a strain or a dispensary or even just a habit, this is an opportunity for you to build a connection, and people want to do business with people that are like them. Some of the challenges you could run into are platform restrictions. For example, Facebook is very, very iffy on doing any type of specific advertising, but you can still market the brand inside of Facebook. There are opportunities to do that. Everything I'm talking about here today, you can do cannabis marketing with. They do have stipulations, but again, so does beer, tobacco, alcohol, alcohol, tobacco, gambling, things of that nature. We just have to work our way through this process. This is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for us until things start to get restructured in the space, but we know this. But it's our responsibility to talk to our prospective clients and our current clients about what we can do. One of the challenges with social media is everybody's on it. Everybody's posting something on Instagram. Everybody's posting something on Facebook. Everybody's doing something along those lines. So the real challenge for us is, what's going to make us different? Because everybody says, hey, I'm locally owned and we've got this strain. There's got to be something different we need to search for. So my homework assignment for you is, what is that 1, 2, or 3 things, your unique selling propositions, a little bit of jargon for you, that's going to make you different? Are you the only person who carries biscuits? Or do you have a strain that's unique only to you? Or are you the only group of people that are going to have a 420 joint rolling class every Friday afternoon? Why not? $5, you get to roll your own pre-roll, you learn a skill, you get to highlight a particular brand, and you've got an artifact to take home with you on a Friday night. So those are just a couple of the tactics that we have the ability to do things with in the in the cannabis space. So what is coming? What kind of changes can we see ahead of us? AI, virtual reality, augmented reality. Artificial intelligence is making our lives much easier. For those of you who might be working with, say, a client who's just in the cannabis space, they are stretched incredibly thin. This is an opportunity to work with them on maybe using AI to help create Facebook content or Instagram content. In a couple of minutes or maybe an hour, they can have a whole bunch of material already scheduled out. That would make their lives that much easier, but it's our responsibility to help them with that. Also engaging with things like automation, using AI to do the routine tasks for the social media work, using chat bots on the website, all tools that'll help one person become like 5. Virtual reality gives us the opportunity to engage a greater response from our prospects. I like the idea of storytelling. Most of us as brands don't understand how to tell a compelling story that pulls somebody in. We have a habit of listing out all the product's features instead of saying, this is what can pull you in. Here's an example. When I was getting my MMP card, I'm in Missouri, I was told about all the things cannabis can do for me. But when the story was told in my head of how a couple minutes in the evening can help eliminate me having to take 3 different types of medications for seizures and eliminate my bodily challenges I'm having. It affects my hunger and my digestion and all that stuff just in a couple of minutes. That's a story that gets me excited. Now, big picture, especially for Facebook and other social media platforms, we can't make medical claims, but you can tell a story. I can't say this product will eliminate hunger or something along those lines. And this is when I suggest getting somebody who's one of your customers to tell their story and put it on video. You can build a YouTube channel for free. Okay. You can post all this. You won't be able to monetize the site, which is kind of a bummer because we're talking about cannabis. But again, you can still build that community and get people excited about what it is we're offering. Also, augmented reality is another tool. It gives us an opportunity to bridge that gap between a physical store and a digital ad. And again, this is an opportunity for us to see what things can, quote, look like. It's also a great opportunity if you want to encourage somebody to get a feel for what the inside of a dispensary looks like. One of the problems we have is a lot of people are afraid of going into a dispensary. It's kind of like the first time you go, for those of you who smoke, the first time you buy cigarettes, you're a little intimidated. But this is an opportunity to show people that it's not this nefarious underground place, that it's a social environment. Some places are lounges. You can imagine having chairs and couches and palm trees and a fish tank, a Zen garden, holy smoke. Now you're getting people excited, but you're using some of these new tools to showcase what it is you offer. Other things that are coming down the pike, they're going to be big players in the next 2, 3 to 5 years, using things like 5G technology. The faster internet and the greater bandwidth is going to allow us to do more things. It was because of 4G technology that we have things like Uber and Lyft. Earlier technology didn't have the bandwidth to do that, and here it created entire new businesses, new economies, and new ways of life for some people. So embrace that new technology. Also, we're coming along in the lines of more wearables. You're going to have the opportunity to serve ads to people based on where they are. Think about being on the same block as a dispensary and somebody who's walking down the street meets the criteria that we're looking for, male, female, certain age, alternative medicine, so on and so forth, and being able to serve them a message when they're right there. Again, it seems a little creepy, but this is where advertising is going. As a matter of fact, higher education textbook bookstores have been doing this for years. And what they've actually done is you can go into a bookstore, and we've all got our phone on us, but there are little beacons inside the bookstore. And if you're still going to a bookstore, you can get served maybe some kind of an offer for pens or pencils if you're in the architecture books aisle, so that you can make more purchases. Those coupons can come to you in real time, all because of your phone. I know we're being tracked, big brother, whatever shall we do? Influencers are another one. This has its own ranges of pros and cons. You know, the pros are that we're talking to a targeted audience. There are influencers in the cannabis space. They do come with a price tag. Some are higher than others. But again, this is an opportunity for you to talk to their engaged audience. You know, one of the ones that I watch on YouTube a lot, they're called That High Couple. I don't know them. I'm not giving them a formal plug or anything, but they're on YouTube, but they do a lot of work with a website called everythings420.com. And they're always doing unboxing of cool glass or new strains or new trinkets and something like that. And I'm sure everythings420.com absolutely loves that because they're getting some ridiculous publicity from this cute married couple who just recently moved to the Seattle area. But again, one of the challenges you run into is you're kind of trusting the influencer to say and do the right thing. They may get a hold of a strain, or they may have an experience that isn't all that, and they're going to tell their entire audience, and this can backfire. We talk about word of mouth marketing being a great tool, and it really is. And I talk with clients all the time who say, well, everybody knows me, word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, and that's great. But what if that word of mouth and that person says you're a knucklehead? Okay, if they say you're a knucklehead now, there's word of mouth going right against you there. So don't lean entirely on word of mouth or influencer marketing, but it is something that you can do to help build your cannabis dispensary business or your marketing business. So where are we going to go? What does the future look like? It's going to look like a cup of coffee here for a second. Hang on. I know, all in one breath. Things that we can look forward to. We can look at the rescheduling. When that happens, there's going to be a lot of restrictions lifted. We are going to get more opportunities to advertise in digital. We're going to get more mediums to play with. We're going to have more companies to play with as well. We have some now. We're going to get a whole lot more. My advice, let's start working with the some right now instead of waiting for the whole lot more, or else it's going to be us trying to compete in a very crowded sea. We're also going to see more restrictions lifted in the digital space. Again, similar to alcohol and tobacco, if you think about a beer ad that you see on TV, you never actually see anybody consume. You see a lot of people having a good time, cheers, and things like that. I anticipate that'll stay the same, but there's a lot more restrictions in the Google, Facebook space. Those restrictions I see being lifted for a couple of reasons. Once we are into the mode of restructuring or rescheduling, we will see Facebook and Google understand the amount of money they are leaving on the table. It's important to acknowledge that these companies are ad companies, not social media companies or search companies. They're in the business of selling ads. They're in the business of selling messages to eyeballs. They know right now that this is an opportunity, but they're also playing the careful conservative game. We're going to get to a certain point where if they don't jump in the pool, they're going to miss out on an opportunity. So we know that's coming. Now, with rescheduling, we're also going to see, I feel, stricter regulations on health claims. Right now, I'm just going to use a regular hospital. A regular hospital cannot do a Google ad campaign that says, we have the best doctors, because the word best can't be quantified. But what they can say is, we have doctors who help your heart. Okay, so we're not going to be able to say cannabis cures glaucoma or cannabis cures epilepsy, but what we will be able to say is cannabis supporting your epileptic health, something along those lines. So when there's more game for us to play, there will be some tighter restrictions, specifically around health claims. So we have to adapt to changes. And the question is, all right, Jay, how do we go about doing that? There's a whole lot here. Understanding the regulatory compliance exercises that we need to go through. What can we do? What can't we do? What can we show on a screen, or what can we put on somebody's audio? What can we put on social media? This, my friends, will be a full-time job. If it's not something you do already, you should be exploring how you can get somebody on board who just gets neck deep into cannabis and digital marketing, because things will be changing all the time. Another win for us, though, is building that community. A lot of the time I see, again, a brand, and this is where we are, ABC Dispensary on the corner of your street and my street, but we're not really talking about the community. And this is a very basic message, whether you're building an online community on social media or you are Tulsan's place to smoke out, something along those lines. Oklahoma is a purely medical use. I use that as just a loose example. But again, I want you to explore item number 5 here, which is embracing storytelling. People like to know what it is this experience, this business is going to do for them. I was in Joplin, Missouri. I was at a dispensary whose unique selling proposition is that they're open 24 hours a day, 24/7, 365. They need to do almost no marketing. But in walked these two old ladies together, kind of arm in arm, and you could tell they were nervous. And they were greeted at the door, and they said, we are 83 years old. This is our first time doing this. We just want the pain to stop. They were welcomed in with open arms, a couple of baby boomers who knew nothing about cannabis except what they grew up hearing. drugs are bad. Okay. I'm a product of the just say no generation. I grew up that way as well. So if we can tell these compelling stories that Jane, 83 years old, tried cannabis for the first time and suddenly she can live a life of comfort. Holy smokes, we're not making false claims. We're just talking about what she's doing. This is an opportunity for your clients or your dispensary to do something different than anybody else. How do we do it? So many tools we can use, some of these that you already know about. You can create things using AI on Canva or Adobe Creative Suite, or talk to somebody who has access to these folks or to these software systems. You can hire them for a per contra or per project basis, or just do a monthly retainer. They can create any type of visual that you need. Google AdWords and Bing ads will help you get keywords. The Facebook ads manager will help you understand who you want to talk to. Hootsuite and Sprout Social can help you schedule those social media pieces that you were going to use AI to help you create. And MailChimp and Constant Contact can help you curate your email list. This is not an exhaustive list. There are tons more, but you understand what we're talking about here is that we're using the tools that we have to make our lives easier. We are working smarter. We're not necessarily working harder. In the world of digital marketing, it's a little bit different than traditional marketing. We have tons of data, whether it's Google Analytics or social media analytics. We know how many people have hovered over a message, how many people have come to a website, how they've left the website, where they've come from. Again, embrace the creepiness, my friends, that our digital technology gives for us, and let's just use it as a tool. When we're working on building our website and we're looking for keywords, don't guess. It's a science. Hire an SEO pro or use tools like SEMrush or Moz or Ubersuggest to help actually pick relevant keywords and change them. Keep your website updated every month at the absolute worst. Better if you hire or have that contractor who's just working for you to keep things up to date. And have a CRM, something like HubSpot, which is a great starting point, free to get started. It's a little more money if you want to keep going. I use HubSpot now. I've tried a couple of different CRMs and I love and I hate them. Okay. But for keeping track of who's on my website or who's using my downloadables, and if I'm going to send them an email, there's no tool that's more valuable. And as you probably know, email marketing gives you the greatest return on your marketing dollar. An email address is more valuable than $1 because we can market to that person over and over again as long as we do it the right way. So I know I'm going through a lot. Where are we heading here? We're almost done. We are going to be seeing an evolution in regulations. As we go through the rescheduling process, and it will happen, we are going to see more opportunities, but we're also going to see regulations evolve. Same thing that happened with tobacco, same thing that happened with alcohol, same thing that happened with gaming. We're going to also see increased acceptance, especially I'm going to remain the eternal optimist when legalization comes. We're probably talking a little further down the road, but periodically, I say periodically, every day I read about another state going through the process. So we're going to get there. We're also going to use technology to drive our digital campaigns. It's going to make our lives a lot easier. It's going to make us more efficient, but we're also going to be able to know specifically who our campaign is going to target to so that we can get maximum return on our clients' advertising dollars. The data that we have will enable us to have a personalized marketing experience. We think about marketing or advertising as invasive, but when I get something that I am interested in a space that is relevant to me, it's not that bad. If my wife were getting the ads that a 50-plus-year-old man are getting upstairs, she'd go, why the hell am I getting this? But when I get messages to me from, say, Birkenstock, yes, I have Birkenstocks, that doesn't bother me because it's relevant to me. Not my wife, it's relevant to me. And we're also going to see an increased need for content marketing and education, because as things get rescheduled, there's going to be a lot of people who want to know what this can do for them and how it can enter their world and make their life a better place. My friends, you have been fantastic. I went through a whole lot. I hope you took a lot of screenshots. If you want to talk more, here is all of my contact information. There's only one of me on LinkedIn. Facebook, it's the Elevated Growth Group. Instagram, same thing. And my email, please drop me a line if you want to talk about digital marketing or tools, or even if you want to say, hey, Smallheer, what did you uncover for streaming television? I'd love to help you. We're all part of the same family.